To announce the arrest of 10 individuals who are responsible for a drug trafficking organization that is operating or was operating in the Central Florida area.
Volusia, Florida. After 12 years wearing a badge, Christina Guess knew the system better than anyone. But instead of guarding the cell block, she was allegedly building a methamphetamine empire right under the nose of the law. Following a relentless 16-month investigation dubbed Operation Guess Who, the FBI and Volusia Bureau of Investigations have finally dismantled the Guess organization. 12 suspects are now in custody, and 24 pounds of meth are off the streets. This is a story of ultimate betrayal, where the hunter became the hunted. Hit that like and subscribe button to stay updated on this developing case.
The only people that knew what was happening inside of there was the people that worked there and the inmates in there.
The story of Christina Guess isn't your typical rags to riches crime saga. It is a calculated descent into the underworld by someone who was sworn to keep that very world at bay. For 12 long years, Guess wore the uniform of the Florida Department of Corrections. She wasn't just a low-level staffer. She was a seasoned veteran who walked the narrow corridors of Florida's toughest prisons, earning the state's trust and gaining an intimate, granular understanding of how criminal networks breathe and survive. She knew the schedules of the guards, the blind spots of the surveillance cameras, and precisely how the legal system attempts to intercept the flow of narcotics. But while the state saw a dedicated public servant, the shadows saw a woman building a blueprint for an empire. Authorities allege that Guess didn't just flip a switch and become a criminal one day. Instead, she spent over a decade meticulously studying the gaps in the system she was paid to protect. By the time she left the department, she was no longer just a guard. She had become a master of logistics. She launched the Guess organization, a sophisticated trafficking ring that functioned with the cold, surgical precision of a Fortune 500 company. Her product of choice? Methamphetamine. Her playground? The entire Central Florida area. The scale of her operation was staggering. According to the Volusia Bureau of Investigations, VBY, and the FBI, the Guess organization was responsible for pumping an estimated 24 pounds of high-purity methamphetamine into the community within a single 12-month window. In the world of narcotics, 24 pounds isn't just a supply, it's a deluge. This amount of poison has a street value that runs into the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and carries the potential to destroy thousands of lives. Guess used her insider knowledge to stay one step ahead of local police, moving shipments across county lines with a level of confidence that bordered on arrogance. She believed that because she knew how the hunter moved, the hunter would never find her. However, her confidence was her undoing. The Volusia Bureau of Investigations didn't just stumble upon her, they hunted her. For 16 grueling months, undercover agents and federal investigators lived in the shadows of her operation. They dubbed the mission Operation Guess Who, a cheeky nod to the woman who thought she was invisible. Agents utilized high-level electronic surveillance, wiretaps, and boots-on-the-ground intelligence to map out every node of her network. They identified her suppliers, her distributors, and her enforcers. They watched as the woman who once locked up drug dealers became the very thing she used to despise. The irony is as thick as it is tragic. Christina Guess spent her career holding the keys to the cell block, never realizing that with every shipment of meth, she was slowly turning the key on her own future. While the public saw Christina Guess as a former civil servant, the Volusia Bureau of Investigations, VBY, was discovering a far more sinister reality, a criminal architect who used her knowledge of state surveillance to build an invisible network. This wasn't a disorganized street gang. It was a disciplined syndicate that operated with the tactical precision Guess had observed during her 12 years behind prison walls. As the FBI joined the fray, the investigation transitioned from a local narcotics case into a high-stakes chess match against a woman who knew exactly how the police were trained to hunt. The Guess organization functioned as a mid-level cartel, bridging the gap between major international suppliers and the local distribution hubs of Central Florida. Surveillance footage and intercepted communications revealed a hierarchy where Guess sat at the apex, insulated by multiple layers of lieutenants and runners. This structure was designed to ensure that even if a street-level dealer was compromised, the trail would go cold before reaching the top. The syndicate's primary commodity was ice, a highly potent, crystalline form of methamphetamine that was being moved in massive bulk shipments. Investigators tracked these shipments as they moved through a series of safe houses and fortified properties, locations that Guess had vetted specifically for their defensive advantages. As the 16-month Operation Guess Who intensified, the VBI deployed advanced electronic intercepts that bypassed the organization's encrypted communications. What they heard was chilling. The organization wasn't just moving products, they were enforcing their territory with an iron fist. The Guess organization relied on a culture of intimidation to maintain silence among its ranks. Illegal firearms, ranging from handguns to high-capacity rifles, were standard equipment for the members guarding the stash houses. This was a paramilitary approach to drug trafficking, where the threat of violence was used to keep both rivals and informants at bay. The complexity of the operation meant that the VBI had to move with extreme caution. One wrong move, one leaked detail, and the entire 16-month effort would vanish into the Florida humidity. Detectives watched as Guess utilized dead drops and counter-surveillance techniques that were straight out of a law enforcement manual. She was playing a dangerous game, betting her freedom that she could outthink her former colleagues. But as the sheer volume of methamphetamine flowing through her hands reached the 24-pound mark, the weight of the evidence began to crush the organization's anonymity. The FBI and VBI were no longer just watching, they were tightening a noose around a syndicate that had mistaken its insider knowledge for invincibility. The hunter had become the hunted, and the Guess organization was about to find out that no amount of experience could save them from the full weight of federal justice. The endgame for the Guess organization began not with a whisper, but with the thunderous resonance of tactical breaching charges. After 16 months of living in the shadows, the FBI and Volusia Bureau of Investigations decided it was time to bring Christina Guess's empire crumbling down. In a coordinated strike involving hundreds of heavily armed officers, multiple stash houses across Central Florida were hit simultaneously. The goal was simple: total decapitation of the network before a single gram of evidence could be destroyed. Body cam footage captured the pure adrenaline of the midnight raids. In one high-speed pursuit, a key member of the syndicate wove through traffic at lethal speeds, desperately hurling bricks of methamphetamine out the window, poisoning the very streets they had spent months exploiting. But there was no escape. Tactical units utilized aggressive PIT maneuvers to grind the vehicle to a halt, ending the chase in a cloud of dust and the cold, rhythmic click of steel handcuffs. For the members of the Guess organization, the party was over. The most poetic moment of the night came when Christina Guess herself was taken into custody. The woman who had spent 12 years guarding the gates of Florida's prisons was now being processed as a high-value inmate. During her booking, there were no special favors, no professional courtesy, only the stark fluorescent reality of the orange jumpsuit. Investigators revealed that Guess had been playing a dangerous double game for years, allegedly using her insider knowledge to smuggle narcotics directly into the cell blocks she was once paid to secure. She had turned the halls of justice into a black market for addiction, betting that her badge would act as a permanent shield. She was wrong. Inside the raided properties, detectives found more than just narcotics. They uncovered a war room setup, scanners tuned to police frequencies, tactical vests, and a cache of illegal firearms that suggested this organization was prepared for a small-scale war. This wasn't a desperate group of addicts. This was a paramilitary drug operation led by a woman who knew exactly how to fight back. The air in the evidence room grew heavy as technicians cataloged the 24 pounds of pure ice, a haul representing thousands of potential overdoses prevented in a single night. At the final press conference, Chief Deputy Brian Henderson stood before a table stacked with seized weaponry and the staggering mountain of meth. His voice was a low, chilling growl as he issued an ultimatum to the underworld. "If you are out there trafficking drugs in our communities," Henderson declared, "it is only a matter of time before we are kicking in your front door and dragging you to hell." The hunter has officially become the hunted, and in Volusia County, the house always wins. Christina Guess is no longer a guard. She is just another number in the system she betrayed. The fall of Christina Guess is more than just another drug bust in the Sunshine State. It is a haunting reminder that the thin blue line between protector and predator is sometimes as fragile as glass. For 12 years, Guess walked the halls of power, entrusted with the keys to the kingdom of justice. Instead of guarding the gates, she opened them for the highest bidder. She didn't just sell methamphetamine, she sold out every officer who puts on a badge with honor, and every family struggling to keep their children safe from the very plague she helped spread. As the steel doors of the Volusia County Jail lock behind her, the irony is inescapable. The woman who once stood on the outside looking in will now spend her days on the inside looking out, a prisoner of the very system she thought she could outsmart. The Guess organization is a ghost now, dismantled piece by piece by the FBI and VBI, but the scars they left on Central Florida remain. 24 pounds of poison may be off the streets, but the shadows of the underworld never truly disappear. They just wait for a new architect. But let this case serve as a final, chilling warning to anyone else operating in the dark. In Volusia County, the law doesn't sleep, and it doesn't forget. Whether you're a street-level dealer or a high-ranking official with a badge, if you bring this filth into the community, they are coming for you. And, as Chief Deputy Henderson said, it's not a matter of if, but when. What do you think was the ultimate downfall of Christina Guess? Was it her arrogance, or was the system simply too strong to break? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this investigation gripping, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the dark side of justice. And this has been the Crime Files. Stay safe and stay vigilant.